Defenders of the Wild from T.L. Simmons and Henry Audubon's involved. The original designer did block by block, and of course Henry Audubon's known for a lot of things. This is a cooperative game, and there's a big fantasy story involved in this, where they really went back. There's anthropomorphic animals going around and everything, but apparently a secret bunker is open, and these machines and robots are pouring out, and you got to stop it. You are part of a scrappy rebellion. There's 4 different factions. You are one of these factions working together. So you have to rewild these factories. These robots or machines are building factories. You have to turn them back into wild. And you also have to build your camps, which means you need to get your reputation to a certain point to build camps on the board. That's how you win. If 6 factories get built, or there are 6 toxic sites on the board, or if 2 defenders from the same habitat are killed, you lose. So in many ways, it's a typical cooperative game. Get the good things done to win, get the bad things happen, you lose. You're going to basically, at the beginning of each round, you're silently spending an organizational turn. You're all going to be picking a card from your hand and playing them face down. You cannot talk. You mustn't do any kind of communication at all. They want you flip the cards. You can argue and talk and fuss about who goes first and what order. Each card has action points on it. You'll have a certain number of actions that you can do. You can move, build a camp, regroup, clear pollution, heal, destroy a mech, breach a wall. There's all sorts of things. You're also running around. There's going to be these snipers and hunter mechs on the board. You'll roll a die and see what kind of damage you take from them. If you take 3 damage and you're out, but you can heal and keep away from that. The machines are going to run in between your turns with a 7-card programmable deck, which you'll flip it over and it will say what kind of thing they do next. And there's some very fiddly ways to show how they moved on the board. I really disliked how the machines moved with these arrows and stuff. With the hexagon grid, I didn't feel that worked particularly well. In fact, I found the rules themselves to be a little foggy to read through in general. They're not particularly intuitive to teach. And I think this is why I don't like this game much at all. I like the theme fine, the idea of fighting the machines, even if the machines do seem a bit of a spin-off of the stuff that you're fighting in Breath of the Wild. It's just that the game feels like Pandemic. It feels like other games. It's like Pandemic on a Catan board. And there's some interesting aspects to it. There's walls, and you got to breach through the walls and get things. But other than that, it feels like it follows all those with a lot of extra rules and a lot of extra rolls of the dice. And the way the cards come out from the robots, sometimes you're just like, well, we just lost. They're all bad card draws in a row, or we got super lucky. And then the rolling of the dice, you live or die off that. And I'm also not a fan of, hey, we're all going to play a card, but no communication. You're like, well, I really hope they do this. I don't know. I don't know why that's forced there at the beginning of each round. So it's like every other Pandemic type of game, but there's restriction. There's walls, enemies who shoot at you. And that combined with a slow, way to finish it off. The game says 30 minutes per player. That is very generous on their part. A 4-player game of this could take up to 3 hours, which I think is way too long. I think the 2 hours that they tell you is too long. So there's interesting ideas in it, but it doesn't feel different enough than a lot of other cooperative games out there. It's too long, too plotting, and too lucky, instead of pacing just feels off. So I like the theme, but that's not enough. So Defenders of the Wild gets a 5 out of 10 from me.